Joe?
Yeah.
In session. Before we call for the adoption of the agenda, we do have enough members participating this afternoon to establish a quorum, and Representative Tina just walked in. Thank you for joining us. You want to just sit down there, or you want to sit up here? Okay. Yeah, we are a family. Thank you, Representative John Paul. You do need a partner on that side of the table. It's going to tip over or the other opposite way. Okay, so before I call for an adoption of the agenda, if there's any objections to the members I would like for the Secretary of Labor to step up and be administered the oath. Any objections, members? Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Tiara, will you please administer the oath?
Ms. Vicky I. Beneventi, you do solemnly swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you shall give in the matter at hand shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I hear a motion for the adoption of the agenda this afternoon? It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Nays? Motion carried. Agenda is adopted for this afternoon, Friday, August 20, 1 p.m. SNILD JGO Committee for the second oversight of the PUA FPUC programs. Moving on along on the agenda, on item number 3 for public comments. If there's anyone in the any public that is present this afternoon, you may step up, please. Limit your comments to 5 minutes and do state your name. And also, if you have anything written, the Sergeant at Arms will get a copy from you. You may come up and sit next to Representative John Paul to make your public comment. Thank you very much.
Masina Leuta. I'm actually a representative for the community. Thank you.
Please state your name.
My name is Masina Leuta.
Okay, thank you. May proceed. You have 5 minutes to make public comment.
Oh, I'm here today to speak on behalf of myself and the experience that I have go through with the PUA program. First of all, I have mixed feelings because in the beginning I was very disappointed, upset. At sometimes I feel very like I am going through emotional distress because of the idea that we have been filing applications after 6 months and still nothing, and you were only told to call them these numbers. Numbers were given, and I have been calling and calling, but in my opinion, it looks like it's a silence treatment to the public, because sometimes you keep on calling, the phone will be answered once, and then after that, the phone, you keep on calling following days, the phone keep on ringing and ringing, and then silently disappear, no response. But during those experience, I was very, very disappointed and come to the point that I am thinking whether these programs are really for the people or for those or for those friends, families, and whatsoever, or for only government itself. But I keep on trying and trying, and then I finally have time to write a letter and then go on through to the Department of Labor through emails. Then we come into contact. I guess the minute I hear the voices of the people who are responsible for this program, I was at a relief. And from that time onwards, they went on and they take matters seriously into their hands and trying to look into the prospects of how fast they can move on with my case. As you may not know, that the first PUA I was disqualified. I'm not disqualified. I was not accepted because of late some documentations that I haven't provided, but I met the deadline. But I was also very, very, very very graceful for the Department of Labor that I wrote a letter of the reconsiderations, and because my reasons are reasonable, they look into the case and they see it is it's a reasonable that they have to re-accept and my application. So as of today, I am very, very happy, very grateful because since the time that I got into communication with the Department of Labor, the person I contact with, we were always on everyday communication, following up on every process. When I see something that through the portal that they send emails from different, sometimes comes from Guam, I confuse, so I will call them and they quickly respond into the issue. So I had bad experience, but then the end, I was very excited and got rewarded for patient and also for being great. So I wanna thank the Labor Department. I understand that the frustration they're going through, but also something that I want to know, I keep asking, how many people that are working in this poor program that are really in charge of all these paperwork and all this kind of stuff? Because community itself is at large is a big community compared to the number of individuals who are working on this program. So we don't know that. But so I am here to tell you that I am happy. I was very, very upset. I thought I'm going to file a lawsuit for emotional distress. I hope I will not go through that. Sometimes I'm thinking because when you promise something and you don't follow up and you don't deliver to the community, it causes people to come into mind of, sometimes they went as far as thinking that, is this for real? Should we forget about it? I even come to the point that should I seek assistance from the federal itself, or should I go through other areas? But finally, because of the continuous communication without hesitating through to the labor, I am so grateful. So I want to thank the Department of Labor. Thank you I know for your continued support, even though that I was I know you guys read my emails and whatsoever and all the things that I have said, but at the end, you guys take it too seriously and take into considerations to look into the matter and proceed and divide and provide the results. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your public comment. That is very welcoming news this afternoon. I'm glad that you're happy, and I'm taking it that your claim has been paid. Thank you very much. You made the excuse. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Any other individual that is interested to make a public comment? We are still open for public comment under the agenda this afternoon. There's no further parties interested in making public comments, so we are officially closing the public comments section of the agenda. Moving right along to item number 4 of the agenda, we now welcome the Secretary of Labor, Secretary Vicky Benavente. I understand you have a updated PowerPoint presentation this afternoon. You may go ahead and proceed for about maybe 5 to 10 minutes of your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to continue the presentation. The PowerPoint consists of our responses to your inquiry last week, and so I will go fairly fast. I think everyone has a hard copy of the responses. Next slide, please. This picture was taken last week. As you can see now, everyone's working through the windows. We're not allowing anyone to come into the office, which we had started to do until, again, we received notice that there are increasing number of cases, not just in Sinai, but worldwide and Guam. Next slide, please. This picture was taken today, this morning. Again, we were putting out more tables, more chairs, but still there's no long lines. There are no long waiting times for anyone who comes up to the building. In response to your questions, we have the PUA summary application summary, and I know the numbers look really hard to see, so let me just read some. This is 2020 submissions from the first day we started in June up to December 2020, and the numbers, I'm sorry, are skewed, but if you'd like me to elaborate on the numbers, I can. Other than that, they're on your presentation hard copy. The most applications that we have received, of course, was the first month of June 2020, and tapered down to 2020 December, and then it picked up again in January. Next slide, please. 2021, these are manual submissions. These are just hard copies, yeah? They're not online portal submissions. I wanted to give you an idea of how much paperwork we're handling. So you can see that very tall figure in the middle is 6,314. Those are weekly certifications, supporting documents, some reconsideration letters, and a few initial applications. Initial applications are when a pool of applicants, the first time they're going to apply for claims. So most of the claims were weekly certifications or supporting documents and reconsideration letters and so forth. As of July 2021, we've received about 780 weekly certifications, supporting documents about 500. There were 800 requests for reconsideration and 72 supporting documents. Next slide, please. Initial claims applications, again, this is for people in July who just started to apply for furlough. They either reduced hours, just started to have reduced hours at work, or they were furloughed or laid off because of a COVID-19 related reason. We have 3,315 initial applications received last year in July, and this year in July we only had 47. These are initial applications. I'll remind you, these are applications for claimants who just lost their job, just got reduced hours, or just started to go on furlough. It's a big drop. You also asked some questions about the LWA, the Lost Wages Assistance Program, which paid for weeks ending August 1, 2020, August 8, and August 15, 2020. The total eligible claimants as of June 23, 2021 was 6,301. Total LWA payments dispersed was $5.2 million to those eligible claimants. Again, as of August 18, just a couple months after June, we had more 6,453 claimants who were deemed eligible for lost wages assistance. However, 53 of them have not been paid because 35 of them are potentially approved, but we are still waiting for some more verification of these particular claimants. Each one is a different case. They have a different reason for not being paid yet, but they have been potentially approved. 18 of those 53 are potential overpayments of LWA. This number is as of August 15 last year, 2020, 6,400 pool claimants were paid for LWA. This is a press release, I'm just repeating it, of what claims we received since the beginning through June 17, 2021. And the first round, we call it pool round 1, 36,898 pool claims were received, both hard copy and online. And then as of June 17 this year, 2021, it went up a little bit to 39,002. Next slide, please. As of the week ending August 14, which is last week, this is the report we had sent to U.S. Department of Labor. 39,144 applications were received. Number of claimants found eligible were 10,322. Number of claimants found pending were 2,579, and number of claimants disqualified are 26,243. Next slide, please. The claimants' benefits paid up to the week ending December 26, 2020 is 9,397. These are for PUA claimants paid up to the week ending December 26, 2020. That's about 8 months ago. 9,397 pool applicants. Disqualified applicants, there were 26,243 denials processed as of just last week. 26,243 denials, which had to be looked at individually by this team that we have, the pool coordinators, manually, individually. This takes a lot of time, a lot of review, a lot of investigation. So these are pretty high numbers for such a small group of people to look through. Next, please. You also had some questions about the overpayment cases, which is handled by our Benefit Payment Control Unit, which is handled by Sharon Palacios. overpayment cases, we had 4,010 as of July 2021. This includes out-of-state and out-of-the-territory cases. We had 1,868 overpayment cases within the CNMI identified, and 331 cases of CW1 overpayment cases. You had asked how many CW1 PUA applicants were claimed to be overpayment, who were deemed to be overpaid. And then the established payments that were paid out, overpayment established was 31 million, overpayment collected is 28 million. And just to show you which account numbers or business unit these benefits went back into, PUA business unit at 13 million, FPUC business unit at 14 million, and then the LWA business unit at 3,275, for that grand total of 28,027,000. That was overpayment collected, and which account numbers. Then I have the Communication Center Supervisor, Ms. Agata Camacho, here today. I'm not sure if I may just give her a chance to state what the report is for July, and if you have any questions about that, I can answer that. Ms. Aggie? You get the hot chair.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Agata Camacho, and I do supervise 8 individuals under my supervision at the Communication Center. These 8 individuals are great. They're wonderful. As you can see up on the board, on the slide, just for the month of July, we had 4,200 calls. 3,126 out of that calls we assisted through the portal. Okay, and then the reasons being are following up on the PUA 2, assistance with block portal, follow up on LWA, and following up on expedite request. I know from the last hearing, there were some comments that call center, communication center is not answering calls or emails, but I, for one, do vouch for these individuals. They're constantly on the phone. I'm on the phone, I'm on the email. If anyone wasn't assisted over the phone, we sincerely apologize. That could be the staff is, restroom, going to an adjudicator to verify a claimant's status, or we've been also having some issues with our telephone. There are times there's call waitings, which we do report, and we do have logs of all those issues that we have with our company. So with that, it's a hard job being in the communication center, constantly answering the phones. It's even with the emails. That's what I have for our center. Okay.
Thank you, Aggie. This is her first official Senate meeting. The next page, I wanted to delve a little bit away from PUA and give you an update about quarterly compliance statistics. The Department of Labor started collecting data from our businesses. When I first started in the department in 2017, we asked all businesses to submit quarterly compliance documents. And the documents just ask 2 things. Who is on your workforce? And what is your plan to develop the workforce who are not U.S. citizens? And how do you plan to bring in U.S. citizens to replace those workforce? So, sorry, the graph is so hard to see, but visa status is the title at the top of the page. And this is only data that the businesses give us. This is not data from all businesses in the CNMI. For this particular slide, you'll see that there's about 4,400 U.S. citizens, and there are 2,685 CW1 workers. And the rest of the little colors are FSM citizens, FAS, EADs, E2, H-1Bs. So this is data that we collect from the businesses on a quarterly basis. I believe this is the latest data from the first quarter of 2021. I wanted to show you that not just PUA, but also statistics we are working on, which is important for us to show to the U.S. Department of Labor what kind of workforce do we have, how many are U.S. citizens, how many are not. This is a better picture for you. 4,700 are U.S. citizens, 3,100 are CW workers. That's a percentage of 60 to 39%. And again, I'll emphasize, this is only from information that's provided to us by the businesses. Does not represent all businesses in the CNMI. This is a picture of the WIA WIA director, Francis Torres, who heads the program. We are very, very busy in partnership with not just NMC PROA, but also defense, the police, PSS, NMTI, NMC, and so many of our programs continue to move on and in hopes of retraining our people or developing skills or improving their skills to continue working in the CNMI, not just in the private sector, but also in our public sector. This is the Defense 14 Fire Academy cycle, also funded by WIA. And there, Madam Chair, is a very brief presentation, and I hope we've responded to all your questions that were asked last week. At this point in time, I'm ready to take your questions.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I know there was a lot of questions the first hearing, so we will walk through some of the questions, perhaps maybe again, and we'll right through your updated PowerPoint this afternoon to see if some of the questions were responded to. Members, I do have a lot of questions this afternoon, but I do want to open up the floor to any of you that do have any questions so that I could recognize you. Recognize Representative John Posabon.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Secretary Benavente and your team again for coming over. I just got a quick question on LWA. I know part of your presentation this afternoon, you mentioned that there's 5.2 million that has been disbursed already, and I believe the total awarded was the tune of 7-some million. What is really the likelihood that we are going to exhaust the money? You have a figure?
Part of that, Chairman JP, is going to the administrative costs for the LWA program. So part of that is going to salaries and wages of the 5 to 7 staff that were hired to handle specifically LWA applications. The likelihood of spending all of it, I will tell you that it's not likely, all of it. There's probably going to be about $20,000 to $30,000 remaining on estimate. And so we have given out a fair chunk of it and spent most of it. But as far as the balance, I believe those will have to be returned back to FEMA, not USDO.
Thank you. And what data or resources was used before we got awarded on that? Were you guys, the department was the agency that gave data before we get awarded with that 7 million?
That's correct, Chairman. It was a fairly easy process because anyone who received a PUA benefit of at least $100 and was qualified for PUA received the benefit of the $100 per week for 3 weeks from LWA. So that was fairly easy to calculate and put out there.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative John Posabon. Any other members that would like to ask some questions? Recognize Representative Tina Sablan.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, Madam Secretary, and to the staff from Labor. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I had a couple of questions just following up on this presentation, and thank you for providing the updated data. At our last meeting, there was an inquiry about this response to the Chair's Open Government Act request of July and the records that were provided by Department of Labor on overpayments that were collected and returned. And I just wanted to follow up. I think you had last said, Secretary Benavente, that you would provide a record showing that the funds, the 28 million that had been collected, were actually returned. And do you have those records with you today?
Yes. Thank you, Representative Sablon. If you would look on the slide, it has the overpayment collected, and the business unit is actually the account number. That is where the accounts are being returned to. There you go.
Oh, there, okay. Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And then the next question I had was on, you mentioned working with national headquarters on these fraudulent claims and also the Office of the Inspector General. And I wanted to follow up on that and ask, have you also approached the local FBI office for assistance?
No, Representative Sablon.
Okay, may I ask why?
We have other measures in place to address these fraudulent claims or overpayment cases.
Okay, so just working with the national dole.
National dole, yes.
Thank you. And my other follow-up question was whether you have initiated an independent audit of this program, either through OPA or the Inspector General's office.
We are being audited or reviewed by the U.S. Department of Labor. We have not initiated a separate audit of this program at all.
Is there a report of that audit?
We are being reviewed. We have not been audited yet. I believe we're waiting till the end of the program to conduct the audit, not us, but the U.S. Department of Labor.
Okay. Thank you. And then going back to your presentation, then I was interested in how claims and the processing work of labor has fluctuated since last year. And could you update us on what your staffing is like now?
We have over 100 staff in the CNMI Department of Labor. About 70 of those staff, including Timian and Rhoda, and a couple of personnel assigned to the Finance Department, are assigned specifically for the PUA program.
Okay. And is that sufficient to meet the demands of this program? Or are you still recruiting?
Each time we have a pool coordinator resign, we replace. So if we have an applicant who happens to be excellent with computer skills, experience with the federal government, or something of that type, we are happy to bring them on board.
Okay, thank you.
Provided we have funding.
Right. You do still have funding, right? For
Yes, we do.
administrative costs?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. And then for the Pool Communication Center, I think Ms. Camacho had mentioned there's 8 individuals who are employed. So they're tasked with responding to both calls and emails, is that correct?
Yes, sometimes we have a staffing of 10, and sometimes we're now down to 8. A couple of them have resigned to return back to the jobs that they had before they were furloughed.
Okay. And then the 4,200 calls as of July, is that just in a single month? There were
Yes, ma'am. That's
4,200
just 1
calls?
month in July.
Wow, for 8 people. Could you talk about the kind of training that the communication center staff receive? Are they actually trained to answer specific questions about individual cases, or do they take the calls and make the referrals?
All PUA staff are trained. Earlier in the first presentation, you'll see a list of some of the UPOLs, webinars, fact sheets, handbooks that everyone had to be trained on. So everyone's been trained, whether they be at the call center as an adjudicator, a reviewer, or a receiver, everyone receives training.
Okay, so they should be able to answer questions that people have about their individual cases, or statuses, or what's going on with my portal, or things like that.
Yes, they should be, and I have to tell you, some of them are brand new, and so they're kind of hesitant to answer the questions, but we try and have either Ms. Camacho or what we call a veteran PUA coordinator sit next to them and assist them with answering their questions.
Okay. And then I guess my last question for this round, Madam Chair, is if you could also provide us with data on what your appeals cases look like. Like how many appeals have actually been adjudicated finally since last year, and then how many are still pending? Like what does that workload look like for labor?
Certainly, Representative Sablon, at the risk of repeating myself, we presented this data in the past, but we can present you an updated data as of today.
Sure, that would be great. That's what I'm asking for.
I will provide you that data at a later time. Representative Sablon.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had that data available.
I'll provide it to you at a later
Okay.
time.
Thank you. I yield, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Tina Sablan. Any other member that would like to ask some questions? Recognize Representative Vicente Camacho.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome back. Madam Secretary, I just have a couple follow-up questions for you. When again did you say the expiration date is for the program?
The POA expires September 4, 2021. We are still accepting applications up to October 4, 2021. I'm pretty sure we'll be adjudicating and reviewing thousands of applications through 2022.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, is there an anticipated extension date? Any anticipated extension dates for the program?
No, Representative Camacho, I don't anticipate an extension date
Thank you.
for the POA program.
I think this is really in reference of the MH1 lease offices. So I'm gonna try not to lose myself in this as well, but I'm reading this and the building is being leased out for a whole year. That's correct, yeah? Starting in June, correct?
We're working on the lease agreement, yes.
So if there is no expiration, no extension for the program, it ends in September 2021. Why is it necessary to lease the spaces for a whole year?
As I just mentioned, Representative Camacho, we have thousands of applications that have not been adjudicated and reviewed yet. And we'd like to make sure that everyone who's eligible for PUA gets approved for PUA and gets paid by PUA. And this is not going to take up to September 2021. I anticipate working through these applications through 2022.
Okay, that makes it more clearer. But so you're saying that the program ends in September, but you're going to carry forward and continue the process. Don't everything stops on that month, September?
The program assistance period will end September 4th, but our job doesn't end until every single application is adjudicated, reviewed, disqualified, or processed.
So the money still is there. There's still the money.
The benefits?
Yeah.
Yes.
So clarify to me then what is expiration date? Now that's when the program stops, correct?
The Pandemic Assistance Program is what we call PAP, is when the period of the program is valid, started, approved by USO. So although the program assistance period will end September 4th, the team will continue to work on these PO applications until they're all done.
And money will still be there.
Yes.
See, that's what I wanted to clarify. Expiration date means everything stops, right? That's how I interpret expiration. It stopped there, everything stops, more or less.
I believe you're asking about the benefits payments. Is that
Well,
right?
everything that includes all the program.
Well, the benefits payments, of course, is only up to September 4th, 2021.
Okay, so essentially the program doesn't stop. Doesn't stop, correct?
The
Money
program
is still
continues,
being-
but the benefit payments will stop September 4th, 2021. That's correct.
Okay. Interesting. Now, that I've been pondering about for a while. Okay, so now you have, I'm just looking at these numbers here. You have two suites, Suite 101 and 103. One is for over $9,000 a month. And the janitorial service is $1,112. Then you have Suite 103, which is $4,587 a month, and the janitorial service is $1,318. There is a discrepancy in the amount now. But what I'm looking at here is, why is it that, which one is a bigger room, Suite 101 or 103?
101, you see 101.
Suite 101 is bigger, but yet you're paying more on janitorial service than the bigger one. should be less.
It's suite 103, it includes a small kitchenette, and the restrooms are also in that suite. Suite
Right.
101 is a larger space in the conference room, which houses about 60 staff.
I didn't see any of that there's no drawing here otherwise that shows that, so. And also in the lease agreement, I see that there's no signature from the Attorney General and the governor. No different Camacho. This is the proposed lease, right?
I can't see the document you're holding of Senator Camacho.
Okay, and then we have two different types of form on here. One is for the recordation purposes. This is the lease agreement. There is no execution date, and there's no notary public signature. Yeah, so yeah, those are the things I'm looking at on here. Was this leased under the emergency procurement or through the proposed procurement procedures?
I'm sorry, Representative Camacho, I cannot answer your question until I see the document you have in your hand.
This is the lease agreement.
Can we get a copy of that?
Short recess, please. is back in order, so, Madam Secretary, you can make your comment on that particular document that you were provided.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Camacho. Now I have the document I think that you have in your hands to tell you the story about how we got into the MH1 building. At that time, we were at the Department of Labor housing several PUA coordinators in 7 different buildings. We were trying to grow the team so that we could process the applications in a quicker manner. At the same time, we were considering the risk of the COVID-19 transmission. And so we tried to have a sole source contract done with this particular building, which is the MH1 building. Before we had that, we had looked at several other buildings in Capitol Hill, and they were just not suitable for the program or for the health of the staff. Many of those buildings are dilapidated, ruined, did not have the capacity to fit all these staff. In order to maintain the integrity of the program, we decided on a building that could house everyone, house all the files, protect us from the risks of COVID-19. And so we tried the second way to procure a contract, which was the sole source, which was the emergency contract, and that was rejected by the Attorney General's office, which is why you don't see the Attorney General's signature on this, because the contract was rejected. So we tried sole source, that was rejected. We tried emergency, that was rejected. And so now we're in the middle of an RFP. And we've already moved into the building because we wanted to process these pool applications as quickly as possible while keeping everyone safe and, most importantly, keeping the integrity of the program intact. There's a lot of information from people about their personal identifiable information. And so we had even borrowed a building from another government agency. It just wasn't working out. We had looked at the settlement fund building and 2 other government buildings. Settlement fund building was trying to negotiate a lease with us for about $16,000. We looked at the MH1 and the capacity of how it was set up. It looked just suitable for this particular team's goals and objectives. And so we are in that building now, and we are going through a request for proposal and evaluation at this time, which I cannot provide you details of that RFP at this time. Does that answer your question, Representative Camacho?
Yeah, good explanation.
Thank you.
Good explanation, thank you. However, the other thing I'm looking at is, when did you all move into the building? Sometimes in May?
I believe so.
Okay, and there was no lease agreement done at the time yet, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Those are just my concerns. Thank you for your answers. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Camacho. Any other members that would like to ask a question before I move into my questions? Recognize Representative Tina Sablan.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up on the questions regarding the building. The pictures that you provided, Secretary Benavente, show that people are still directed, members of the public would still go to the labor office in Capitol Hill. Do you receive the members of the public for service at the MH2 building now, or no?
We have receivers at this building, 1334 we call it, and we do not receive pool applicants or the public at the MH1 building.
Okay, so for customer service, people would still go, our constituents would still go to Capitol Hill.
All pool applicants, whether your constituents or not, go to 1334 in Capitol Hill.
Right, okay, thank you. And then I actually have one other question. We have been receiving inquiries from PUA claimants, who are also our constituents, who say that they're being asked to show proof from their bank statements that they have not actually received the funds that labor has said they have been overpaid. And could you help us understand how that happens? And I'm looking at the data that you provided on overpayments, and I'm wondering if that takes into account claimants who are saying that they never actually received that money. It shows on their portal, but their bank statements would show otherwise. Does your data reflect that discrepancy? Is that, are those people included in the numbers that you provided? And then how does that happen, that the portal shows payments made but they're not actually getting the payments in their banks.
That's a lot of questions. So let me address the bank statement question. Yes, we ask for claimants to provide bank statements to verify that they have either received the pool benefits or they have not, because many of them opted for direct deposits for the pool benefits, and so it would show on a bank account or bank statement if they had received the statements or not. It is a requirement for us to make sure that every detail of their application is verified.
Sure, I understand that part, but what I don't understand, and I'm hoping you could help us understand, is why the portal would show payments made, and like why would these pool claimants have to, go through the trouble really of downloading bank statements and having to prove that they never got payments, right? And now we have this issue which came up last time of 1099s being inaccurate. Is it a problem with the portal? Is there something happening at the level of finance with direct deposits? Like why are you saying on labor's side that payments went out and claimants aren't getting that on the other side?
I'll admit the portal has made numerous errors on pool claimants, and that's why we have to verify, make sure they either received the amounts or did not.
So the issue is with the portal. It's not happening at the
It's
level
not
of
just with the
finance.
portal, Madam Representative Savant. And sometimes the claimants have closed the accounts, and therefore the accounts deposits get rejected. There are so many issues to so many claimants, and so in order just to verify that they're not getting overpaid or they're not getting underpaid, we ask for the bank statement. And yes, it's a problem that we've had from the beginning. Issues with our portal, issues with getting the correct documentation or complete documentation. Sometimes applicants turn in the wrong accounts or wrong bank statements, and so we have to start all over and say, which account did you want your pool benefits deposited to?
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of issues.
Okay. And I guess like the last part of my compound question, having to do with like the data that you're reporting, 28 some million dollars in overpayments that have been collected back, but it's more than that, right? 31 million in overpayments. Does that include the people who are saying no, that we never actually received it, or have you filtered those people out?
31 million has been identified as overpayments. 28 million has actually been collected, and that does include people that we filtered out.
Oh, okay. So that's how. I guess I'm just wondering. So of the ones that you filtered out, like how much does that add up to then? Of the people who said we never got these payments, and so now they're going through this other process of having to verify.
I don't have that data with me now. We can get that to you later.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you. I yield, Chair.
Thank you, Representative Tina. Any other members that have a question? Okay, let me just start off with the contract that we are talking about right now. So, Madam Secretary, you are occupying an office space without a legal contract, correct?
We are in the process of the legal contract with a vendor.
Okay, my understanding of the expenditure of any public funds or even federal funds for that matter is that they should not be incurred, meaning any expenses expended on any funds without any legal contract, most especially for office space or equipment or things like that. Let me move into the question regarding this matter, and that's the reason why I requested an Open Government Act on any and all rental contracts approved and not approved intended to be funded by PUA and FBUC federal funds. In reviewing, actually, we just received this document this afternoon from procurement. Initially, we were told that there was no document with respect to the disapproved contract from Department of Labor, and this afternoon, I was very thankful that we actually got a copy from procurement. It was delivered this afternoon to my office. My staff picked it up. Now, just to go on the record that the Attorney General's office wrote your office on July 8, 2021 regarding this particular contract 724592-OC, office space lease, Department of Labor. And there are, provisions on the letter from the AG that yes, the recommendation to proceed with a proposed procurement request for proposal method of procurement with respect to the occupation of the office down in Puerto Rico. Furthermore, on the letter from the Attorney General, it does talk about, it says, although these circumstances present challenges, it is not clear that they rise to the level of an emergency condition such that the requested procurement is necessary to meet the immediate emergency, and he provided some citations of the statutes of the CNMI government. Furthermore, I underline a particular section of the letter from the attorney. It says, in particular, the per square foot price to lease space from the proposed lessor MH1 building is set to be less than the price for similar office space available at the settlement fund building. However, no documentation is provided. This lack of documentation precludes the ability to conduct an independent comparison and meaningful review of the prices obtained. Additionally, the effective date of the proposed contract is indicated as May 17, 2021. The effective date, however, cannot precede the date of contract approval. Also, under Exhibit B, Section 2, a lump sum payment for the 1-year lease period is required. However, the lump sum payment does not meet the conditions for advance payment under subsection 70-30.3401, and that's citing the CNMI government statute. So, on my review of the allotment advices on the establishment of the accounts for the pool administration and FPUC, on the allotment advices under section F, it says contractual under your business unit LO 225C, pool administration, you have $30,000, not under rental office 62440, but under rental others 62480. Also under business unit LO 225E, pool administration, rental others 62480. The amount of $21,750 was allocated. Business unit LO 225J, pool administration, ARPA, rental others 62480, $42,780. My question is, why won't you book these allocations totaling $94,000, $530 under rental office 62440? Rental others 62480 is defined on the CNMI government's chart of accounts as lease payments not included in 62420 rental vehicle and 62460 rental office equipment. My question to you is, are you paying the building in Puerto Rico right now? We bought a contract under 62480 account, expense account, not under rental office 62440 account.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I don't have the accounts in front of me and I don't have my account person with me. Can I get that information?
Sure, okay. Moving right along, just mark this question here. I did call for a also an Open Government Act, and it's actually overdue. My letter was dated August 3rd, 2021, requesting for a copy of the ETA 902P report. Additionally, I requested for all PUA FPUC most recent related quarterly reports, ETA 9130, all PUA FPUC most recent related closeout reports as well, if any. Do you have any idea when that will be coming to my office?
I apologize, Madam Chair, we'll get that to you on Monday.
Okay, thank you. Now let's move on to some of my technical questions regarding the administration of the program. This afternoon on my way up to the office, I was asked by an individual whether the Department of Labor has the authority to freeze a person's bank account, because this individual is being told that there is an overpayment and that the overpayment must be paid back. And if not, then the bank account will be frozen. Is that a a true statement?
That is a false statement. The Department of Labor does not have the authority to freeze anyone's bank account. It is up to the bank to freeze an account.
All right, thank you. Thank you for going on record on that. Now, speaking of overpayments, now do individuals get an official letter from the Department of Labor indicating how much overpayment they have to pay back?
Yes, we conduct an interview with the individual and discuss overpayment, we say, procedures and time schedules for the claimant. Our number one focus is not to put anyone below the poverty level or to put them in deeper debt or to cause them any more stress and headache. Our goal is to recover these funds, but in a manner that would not hurt the individual.
Understood. And I know we talked about, if it's not their fault, that there can be some considerations on waiving those. My question really is, I see some heads nodding when I was asking the question that there are official letters been sent out. So I would think that maybe those electronic letters are going out or some kind of template is created on the portal. And for those that are applying online, it'll go into their mailbox within their portal account, correct? What about those?
Procedure, correct, Madam, but we also meet with them in person and explain it line by line to people. Because
Right. Understood. I hear a lot about that, but I think it's for the purposes of trying to identify what particular weeks are considered overpaid. That's very essential for the applicant itself. A blanket statement of you are overpaid $6,000, for example, or you are overpaid $3,000, for example, is clearly not providing any kind of comfort in a way for the person to understand exactly what weeks are affected with respect to the overpayment. So that is my question. And then to fold into the same situation, what about those individuals that do not apply online electronically? Are they being mailed out with respect to their overpayments? And which particular weeks are affected? Is that also being provided with respect to services?
Yes, it is. And when a person is told you've been paid or paid PUA benefit, we go over exactly how that overpayment occurred. And the majority of the time, it is a poor applicant who misfiled an earning on the portal or miswrote an earning on his pool application, the hard copy, showing that perhaps he or she says, I earned $0 this week and the next 4 weeks, and yet when they provide check stubs or payroll timesheets, there's proof that the claimant did in fact earn wages. And so he would put 0 on the portal on the application and gets inputted, and then later as that application is audited, we discovered that the claimant actually had earned wages, and therefore he became an overpayment case. So all overpayment cases are discussed, reviewed with the claimant in person.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. But at the same time, even with the individual providing all the required documentations for their particular weekly claims, that it also puts the responsibility on the department to validate those values that are being entered either manually on the application itself or electronically. And the last oversight, you did mention that the system does calculate out for those that are applying online, right? So, and then you'd also made a statement that yes, you are able to go in there and overwrite the error before even hoping that before even the payment gets paid out, that those errors and overpayments calculations on the system are recognized. But it's apparent that $28 million of overpayments was not, caught on at the onset when the system was generating those calculations. And I'm sure that every case by case basis will be considered to be waived with respect to the overpayment, and that you're all going through that process. Okay, let's move right along on some of my questions here. Your retention of records, what is your means of retention of these records, and how are you to protect these records as required by federal law for a period of 3 years?
All records are kept in locked filing cabinets and locked offices. The fee is only handled by one director and one supervisor.
Okay, so electronic records, I know that I read through the guidances that electronic records are to be kept for about 3 years. So is there any backup? Is there an off-site security? For example, should anything happen, a major storm or a fire, that this data is protected, electronic records? And that's my question, really.
Yes, we do have some measures in place to protect the data.
Okay. Now, let me ask some question on out-of-state claims. Are some of these out-of-state claims addresses belonging to CNMI residents that have relocated to the U.S. with a U.S. address whose loss of income while in the CNMI was affected by the pandemic? Do you still consider them in your report as fraud out-of-state address without further verification? According to Interstate Benefit Plan UIPO 16-20, it states under Section C21B, interstate claims, PUA is payable to individuals filing under the Interstate Benefit Payment Plan in the same manner and to the same extent that benefits are payable to intrastate claimants. The liable state is responsible for identifying and notifying all potentially eligible interstate claimants of their potential eligibility, including filing instructions. During your testimony on September 22nd, 2020, Federal Relations Committee in the Senate, you stated that individuals claiming from off-island are denied and must be physically present in the CNMI. Can you please explain what actions the CNMI Department of Labor initiated for claims under interstate claim and how the rights of these individuals are being handled and protected?
First of all, Madam Chair, the CNMI does not have any reciprocity agreement with any state. These rules that we have pertain to the CNMI. Even if a PUA applicant was in the States, when he had applied for PUA and he is from the CNMI, he is not eligible for PUA. He is only eligible for the time that he was on island because he's able and available to work. Once a PUA claimant has left the CNMI, he is not able to work in the CNMI, and therefore he is not eligible to apply for any PUA benefits from the CNMI.
So it was a choice of the state government on that particular decision to not enter into an interstate agreement with another state, considering that some of these individuals were affected by the pandemic when they were here, and then obviously some of them probably relocated to the U.S., but they did file some claims here.
If they filed the claims here, they would be eligible if all the documents were complete and all the reasons were valid. They would receive PUA benefits from the CNMI. We had asked to see the U.S. go for an agreement that we could work out with other states, and the U.S. Department of Labor said no. We denied that request, and so we had to follow the rule. Anyone who lives here and is eligible for PUA must be here on island to receive those benefits. If they leave the island after they've applied, of course they get the benefits, but they do not get any benefits starting from the day they leave the CNMI.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We will be able to provide the committee that particular communication with the U.S. Department of Labor denying the interstate agreement with another state.
I believe we have a lot of discussion with the U.S. Department of Labor. It's not on written records, Madam Chair.
Okay, so I'm just going to take it from your statement. Thank you.
Yes, please.
All right, moving right along. Do you know what is the working population count that was reported on the 2020 prevailing wage report for the period of June to July 2020?
Is that a trick question?
It's not a trick question.
I don't, Madam Chair.
Have you seen the 2020 prevailing wage report?
Yes, I have seen it, but I have not really studied it carefully. It is a task that is handled by our colleagues at the Department of Commerce. I do have the supervisor from the Employment Services Division of the Department of Labor who is tasked with reviewing that and working with our employers in the CNMI regarding prevailing wage requirements.
So let me state the reason why I asked the question is because the time period that the prevailing wage study was conducted was within the first phase of the PUA program. And that total comes out to 14,534 working population when that study was done, the period of June to July 2020. On this same report, do you know how many employees were affected by COVID-19?
I can't talk to or speak to the report from the prevailing wage survey, and you might have seen in one of the slides from information provided to CNMI Department of Labor how many workers were affected by the PUA.
Okay, so can you take us to your PowerPoint? I believe you have a data up there somewhere that you had mentioned between
under the
June 2020 data.
quarterly compliance statistics. And again, I emphasize, this is data that is provided to the CNMI Department of Labor. on a voluntary basis. It is not data that is complete of and representing all of the CNMI businesses. Keep going down at the quarterly compliance documents.
I think I'm asking you for your PUA data with respect to June 2020.
Data?
Right, your applications or your claimants. And why that's important is because of the time period when the survey was conducted. I just want to see whether you come close to the number based on the survey that was done by the prevailing, for the prevailing wage study for that time period of June to July 2020. And the total count on the survey is 1,943. So mathematically, if you're going through the PowerPoint, maybe your staff can go through that themselves while you focus on the question. Again, based on the number from the prevailing wage report, which I sourced, considering that is the first period of the PUA program, is it safe to assume that if all these individuals were to apply for PUA benefits, a total of 75,777 claims would have been received by the CNMI Department of Labor, mathematically speaking?
My math is not that good, but I think 75,000 is way too high. When Director Eugene and I were estimating how many workers in the CNMI would be affected by this pandemic last year in February, we estimated about 15,000 CNMI workers.
That's pretty close to the 14,535 working population that was reported by the prevailing wage. So mathematically speaking, if you notice what I'm doing here on the mathematics side, if you just look at the time period from the beginning of the PUA period to the point of July 2020, I see Eugene is nodding. You understand what I'm talking about. Calculating out the number of claims, which is the first PUA period is 39 weeks. So if you take that number from the beginning of time of the PUA benefit program initial to the point of end of July, that'll give you the number of weeks. And that's pretty much how I make the assumptions of 75,777 claims that the CNMI Department of Labor would have received based on the data from the prevailing wage report, okay? However, on your CNMI weekly report, week to week for August 1st, 2020 week, shows a cumulative count of 22,132, which is 53,645 less than the assumption based on the 2020 prevailing wage data collected for the period of June to July 2020. If you need time to look at that report, I suggest you do, because I'm taking your numbers straight from the report when I did the Open Government app.
Madam Chair, I do need time to look at that
Okay.
report. I don't have those numbers.
Certainly. Furthermore, will you agree on the assumption that if all the 1943 affected by COVID-19 filed claims for PUA and FUC, that a total number of 122,409 claims would have been filed for PUA 1, 2, and 3 combined?
That would depend, because CW1 workers were not eligible for POA benefits in round 1, which was February to December in 2020. And other different factors, as I said, the prevailing wage survey was not handled by the Department of Labor, so I can't speak to that report or their numbers. I can only speak to the reports that we obtained from the businesses through the CNMI Department of Labor channels.
Right, but the prevailing wage report becomes an official document of the state, because that is used by the Foreign Labor Certification in order for them to qualify the petitions that are going through for foreign workers that are working within the Commonwealth. So that is an official data. Most employers actually responded, more than 95% responded to the survey. That is an official data of the state. And normally Department of Labor would honor that. Quarterly report submitted by the employers is a useful data. However, it's not really collected in a way where you could fashion it into to qualify with the respective official report collected by the Department of Commerce. So I suggest you look into that report and kind of like do the mathematical calculations. Thank you. How much of PUA 1 funds were not expended or deobligated?
How much of PUA 1 funds were not expended or were deobligated? I
Correct.
don't have that figure in front of me.
Okay, so let me carry on with the question. If carried over under the CAA, which is a continuation act, how much of those funds were carried over and what is the current fund balance?
Again, let me get that data for you.
Thank you very much. Let me move on to my next inquiry. I've seen some emails from individuals that provided me some email communications. There has been inquiry with respect to documentations from the adjudicators of the Department of Labor, even to the point of asking about the PPP loan information that the employer could have applied for that under their respective banks, which is funded under SBA. Can you explain the reason for that information?
Again, when an adjudicator asks a pool claimant for information or documentation, it's to verify that what they're stating is in fact correct. We have seen some instances of pool claimants saying they didn't earn any wages, and yet when we check with their employer said, yes, this company received PPP assistance, and therefore we did pay these particular employees some wages. And so it's a matter of verifying the numbers and the wages and the earnings. And that is why we ask for that.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Okay, let's move on to other inquiries that I have before you. There have been inquiries regarding the work search requirements under Hawaii Administrative Rule 12535. And at the same time, we know that the U.S. Department of Labor has issued guidance of different scenarios under UIPO 1020, dated March 12, 2020, for states to exercise flexibilities regarding the work search requirement. The CNMI Department of Labor also published press release dated July 21st, 2021, encouraging the utilization of the CNMI Department of Labor services to satisfy the work search requirement, which is in direct reference and consistent to the same Hawaii Administrative Rule, namely under Section 4C and D. My question is, how has the CNMI Department of Labor utilized these particular scenarios provided under UIPO 1020 and the Hawaii administrative sections that could have been of great assistance to the PUA applicants in fulfilling this job search requirements, to include the responsibility of the CNMI Department of Labor in performing its administrative duties under Title 80, subsection 80, 20.1-235 job referrals. Furthermore, under other jurisdictions such as Guam, issued a suspension of work search requirement through an Executive Order 2020-25. Have you considered this approach seeking an EO with the governor? And if not, why not considering the federal guidance is providing substantial flexibilities for states to consider during these COVID conditions, such as the provision mentioned on UIPO 13-20, Section 5, emergency flexibility, providing states significant authority in applying these permissible flexibilities, limited to the time frame in which COVID-19 pandemic is being addressed, and further under this Section 5A. It further states, building on the flexibilities described in UIPO 1020, the passage of EUISAA allows for states to provide for an emergency temporary modification or suspension of the actively seeking work requirement as needed to respond to the spread of COVID-19. Other UIPOs, such as UIPO 1620, change 4, number 13, page Roman numeral 1-18, mentioned on this emergency flexibility, as well as UIPO 16-20, change 1, question number 47, page Roman numeral 1-12, made similar reference on this flexibility. Having provided you, Secretary, on these provisions on all the applicable UIPOs, will you now consider the full utilization of these flexibilities to alleviate the burden placed on PUA recipients on work search requirements, when we all know that people are still on reduced hours, furloughed, and that employers are still trying to survive this pandemic?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I totally understand that, and trust me when I say this team of Department of Labor is trying to assist all PUA applicants to comply with this work search requirement as mandated by U.S. Department of Labor. The Division of Employment Services, as I mentioned in the last Lease presentation, they've gone from 30 to 40 applicants a day to over 100 of applicants looking for work, applying for work, assisting them with resumes, registering on the DOE website, contacting potential employers, upgrading their skills. The Department or the Division of Workforce Investment Agency, which Frances Torres is here, and you saw her picture there. We're not just sitting down waiting for people to come to us and learn new skills. We're trying to go out there and teach our people to upgrade their skills or retool themselves so that they can be eligible for jobs that are opening up in the CNMI. It is the mandate again of the U.S. Department of Labor that we follow Hawaii state law. It is a mandate that this work study requirement be in effect from August 4th to September 4th. It's not something that we want to burden our people with, but it's something we have to follow.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, but the point I'm trying to make is that the U.S. Department of Labor, we can use the word mandate, but at the same time, providing all of the guidances does provide the state extreme flexibility to exercise its decision to even to the point of suspension of having these individuals require them to go out and seek employment. And that's the reason why I brought up the reference to the executive order issued by the governor of Guam, when really the CNMI too could easily get an executive order issued to suspend this particular requirement, because as we speak today, there is still a lot of businesses that are struggling to try to even maintain. Some of them are not even paying 80 hours. Some of them are not even paying the full part-time hours of their employees. And to require individuals to go out there just for the sake of going through the process to try to satisfy what we call a mandate by the U.S. Department of Labor is really not so, taken lightly in my opinion, because again, the U.S. Department of Labor provides the state a lot of flexibility to exercise, even to the point of suspending this particular requirement.
To that point, may I, Madam Chair? The state of Hawaii reinstated their work search requirements just in June, and we were required to follow suit in August. The rules that you mentioned were in place before they returned back to their work search effective date.
Thank you. So on my follow-up question to that, on the particular Title 80, subsection 8020.1, 235 job referrals, the administrative responsibility of the Department of Labor for those that register for work. Do you have the data of how many of these PUA applicants were actually referred to any job vacancy announcements, as stated in some of the press releases I've been reading?
We can get that data to you, Madam Chair, next
Yes,
week.
thank you. And while we're on that data from the job bank, I would also like to know how many of those job positions being posted belongs to CW1.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving right along. Let's see. I understand that there are numerous PUA cases that pertains to foreign workers. With respect to CW1s, they are considered for the benefits under the CAA or PUA 2 period. Are you aware of PUA case number 20-0029 administrative order?
I'm sure I'm not, but Jackie is.
In this particular case, the individual was denied and filed an appeal. The administrating hearing officer cited several technical errors and inconsistent filing instructions that led, amongst other reasons, to the decision that ruled in favor of the appellant. 1, faulty instructions included on the CNMI Department of Labor's denial determination. 2, incorrect deadline of filing date and to file with the Guam Department of Labor. And 3, incorrect interpretation and analysis of qualified alien status under subsections 2 and 2D5 of the INA for at least 1 year. This leads to my question. How many individuals are in these erroneous determinations, and what has been done to ensure that their due process is accorded to them?
I can get you the data of how many are in these particular cases and what have we done to ensure. I can tell you that right now we have hired another administrative hearing officer pro temp to assist Ms. Nicholas with the overwhelming number of cases coming to our court.
Okay, thank you. That's good to hear that you have another hearing officer to adjudicate the cases, and we'll be waiting for the number of cases that are going through that process, in particular the CW ones that are falling under the CAA time period of PUA 2 and probably PUA 3 as well. Now, moving forward, on Guam Daily Post, dated June 22nd, 2021, article titled CNMI 6 Expansion of PUA Program. The article stated you had informally requested the U.S. Department of Labor to consider expanding the program for the CNMI. And earlier you made a statement that there's not going to be any extension, correct?
My statement, I believe, is that I would be asking the U.S. Department of Labor to extend the program.
That actually appeared in the local paper, but not on the Guam article.
And
Right,
I know
that's
the
right.
paper sometimes misquotes.
Yeah. But this afternoon, you did make a statement earlier that there's not gonna be an extension after September 4th, though you are still receiving applications up to October 4th, correct?
We have been granted the extension to receive applications up to October 4th. That's correct.
Okay. And the benefit period, though, will end on September 4th, correct?
That's correct.
And September 4th falls on when?
It's a Saturday.
Your calculation period, is it a Saturday to Sunday or Sunday to Saturday?
Saturday to Saturday.
Sunday to Saturday,
to
right?
Saturday.
Sunday to Saturday,
All
right?
I know is today is Friday.
I've actually seen some people's concerns, and I did my own calculation and review, and it's actually Sunday to Saturday. Okay, all right, so it's, members, just so you understand, it's Sunday to Saturday. Okay, so there's no further extension, no cost extension after September 4th, benefits period, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, furthermore, let's move on the same article of Guam dated June 22nd, 2021. It's the 39,000 claims mentioned on the article, a cumulative number from the beginning.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a cumulative number. Okay, is the 2509 applications part of the 39,000 claims received?
One more time with the question.
On the Guam article dated June 22nd, 2021, is the 39,000 claims mentioned on the article a cumulative number from the beginning? The beginning, which is inclusive of PUA 1. The article is dated June 22nd, 2021.
I can't speak to the article, but that figure is correct.
That's correct?
The figure is correct.
Okay, is the 2509 applications part of the 39,000 claims received?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, one more time. The number is the 25.
Is the 2,509 applications part of the 39,000 claims received?
I'm not sure where you got that number, Madam Chair.
It's coming from that article,
Okay.
right? And is it correct to say that only 13,000 claims were qualified and valid claims? If yes, then let me take you back to your December 27, 2020 press release. You stated that there were 18,896 CNMI claims that fall under the CNMI jurisdiction for the period beginning June 17, 2022, December 17, 2020. So are we saying here that 20,104 claims were received from March 28, 2020 to June 16, 2020, and are not under the CNMI's jurisdiction?
If we can go back to the slide, it will show you exactly how many applications were received by the CNMI, for the CNMI, and how many were deemed ineligible because they were applications from outside of the state or outside of the territory of the CNMI. Carrie, can you put it back on that slide that has applications received, the PUA program? From the very beginning, I believe.
So we're sort of saying that the 39,000 claims is from the beginning of time of PUA 1 period, which is February 2020, to the date of the article of June 22nd, 2021. Is that what we're saying this afternoon?
There it is. 36,898 claims are received from June 16, 2020 to December 17, 2020. And then just a year later, we're up to 39,002 PUA claims received.
Okay, that's 39,000, right? So on your press release that was dated, let me see, December 27, 2020, it states 18,896 CNMI claims that fall under the CNMI jurisdiction for the period beginning June 17, 2020 to December 17, 2020. That's the difference, 18,896 versus 39,000.
18,896 claims fall under the jurisdiction of the CNMI, meaning they are in the CNMI, they're deemed possibly eligible to receive benefits. 18,002 are deemed ineligible because they were identified as belonging to other U.S. states and territories, and therefore are outside of the jurisdiction of the CNMI and not part of the CNMI.
And that's where I did the calculation of 20,104 claims were received from March 28, 2020 to June 16, 2020, and are not under the CNMI's jurisdiction. So I'm asking that question just to balance out the 39,000. And notice that the 13,000 and 18,896 claims, as stated on your December 27, 2020 press release, has a difference of 5,896 claims.
Yes, Madam, the 13,000, I'm looking at the press release, 13,801 of those eligible claims received benefits.
Hmm?
Whereas 5,095 have been flagged for further investigation at that time.
Right. So I'm going to carry on with that because the 5,095 comes up. On the same press release, it was stated that 13,801 were eligible claimants, while 5,095 claims were flagged. And I'm going to ask the question again, which is correct, claims or claimants? If it's claimants, what is the accurate and unique claimants data for LWA? We asked that last time, right? And then you provided some data this afternoon. But based on your press release dated December 27, 2020, I would assume, as stated on your press release, the total number of claimants for PUA would be 13,801. Again, according to GAR, on his email, July 8, 2021, a total of 6,301 LWA claimants were paid. And so what happened to the 7,500 PUA LWA claimants who were within the LWA benefits period, which is, as of the writing of the email from Mr. Patrick Guerrero, a total of $2.2 million of available LWA funds remains on the books. $2.2 million of LWA funds translates to 2,444 claimants, which I had mentioned to Mr. Guerrero. And I know that you mentioned also earlier that most likely the full expenditure of the LW money is not going to happen, and that some money would have to be returned back. So on this particular data question, are you seeing about in your portal with respect to querying your data on the time period of the LWA? That's the first time period of PUA benefits period. Are you looking at roughly over 2,000 claimants, application or claims for LWA that have yet to be paid out? Based on all the data that you guys have released out to the community and trying to qualify and validate whether it's claims or claimants, it makes a difference because the time periods of PUA benefits 1, 2, and 3, first period is 39 weeks, second period is 11 weeks, third period is about maybe 12 or 13 weeks, correct? And because there's no extended time period, it's not going to carry out to 39 weeks, right? So that's why all the mathematics that I'm doing here, it makes sense based on the data that you guys are putting out on your press releases. And I'm just trying to validate the numbers, considering that there's PUA money sitting, there's FPUC money sitting. The program is going to end by September 4th, no cost extension. The applications are going to be received up to October 4th. Then you have a $2.2 million of LWA money sitting in the account as well. And that's the reason why this is very important. It's so critical to get the data correctly and communicate it out correctly to the community and even to members like the SNILD JGO as we conduct this oversight on the program, because it's all about the money. How fully expended are we as a state government? Are we going to finish up the money in time by September 4th? And I'm sure LWA is closing out also on September 4th, correct?
LWA program has closed, Madam Chair.
LWA has closed already?
Yes.
So what's going to happen to those that are within the period before the closure that are still have yet to be paid on their LWA benefits? And then I do recall on your PowerPoint that there's also overpayments of LWAs. How did that happen?
There in the slide, you can see how many claimants as of August 18, which is just 2 days ago, have been eligible or adjudicated, reviewed, approved, or disapproved. 53, only 53 claimants out of the 6,400 have been deemed potential but unpaid, and 18 are potential LWA overpayments. Anyone else after that have either not applied for LWA or PUA, have been deemed disqualified. We're not sure. Each case is Depends.
I understand for those that did not apply on time, but let's just hypothetically speaking right now, based on all the data that's coming out, we know that the time period of first PUA begins in February to December, correct? That's 39 weeks. Within the same time period, the LWA period of August 1 and the other subsequent 2 weeks falls within the same time period of the first PUA. So in your system on the portal and even on the manual applications, are you able to provide us the data of those individuals that applied for the PUA benefits within the same time period? Okay? You can even start from February to the end of August, just so that you could close out those applications. When I mean the close out, I don't mean for you to close out the grant money. No, I'm talking about blocking your data source from February 2020 to last of August 2020, just so they could validate the numbers of how many of these individuals could potentially be recipients of the LWA money. You see what I'm saying? It's technical, it's analytical, but it can be done.
And we have that data for you.
Right. You can get that to me later?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. On ETA 902P, Section B, codes for denials and appeals activities to be reported. Do you have the numbers on your cases on appeals and how many are under reconsideration?
We can get that data to you, Madam Chair.
I believe you're going to get that to me on Monday, right?
Yes,
That
ma'am.
report.
Yes.
Okay. Does the CNMI Department of Labor pull the PUA FUC data on-site, or do you have to request for the data off-site and from whom?
We do request for the data from our online portal vendor.
Okay. I thought I saw in one of your on the implementation plan, I believe there was a category there, and it says that you're sourcing the data from the Department of Labor. No? I stand to be corrected, but I thought I saw something to that effect on that particular section of the report. That's the reason why I'm asking the question.
No, ma'am.
So you were sourcing it from JGO Solutions?
Correct.
And what is the turnaround time on the data reporting when you source?
Not as fast as I'd like. They tell us 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks on our particular plan contract.
So that particular feature of the infrastructure itself, you don't have access to that locally? I mean, I would think that when you build an infrastructure, when you have you don't build it, but it's already pre-built by JGO Solutions, because they do a lot of the unemployment benefits across the country, that you would have that particular field available for the local government, like CNMI Department of Labor, the entity that's running the program, to be able to access the database and push that button and command the infrastructure to source and query the data of whatever data you're being asked for today as we speak, rather than to source it outside in the clouds and wait 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get it back to you. Wouldn't that make a lot of sense? Why was it not requested so that you guys can have access to that data?
You're absolutely correct, Madam Chair. And I think, please note, whenever you have a contract with a vendor, what we pay for is what we get. So the modules that we had selected, we believe at the time were the most important fields to be requested. Accessing data, we do have access to a lot of data. Some of them we have to request the access or request for a summary of the data, and they do turn it into us when we ask them. At least within 2 weeks of the time frame they've always promised us from day one.
Okay, before we go into a short recess, let me just ask one more question. On Section H of your ETA 902P, calls for arithmetic checks, considering the data being reported out to the community is oftentimes inaccurate. Is the ETA 902P report, which you're going to get to me on Monday, correct? Is it correct, or does the U.S. Department of Labor ETA raise questions of report accuracy?
The answer to your question is yes. The U.S. Department of Labor does run checks on the reports that we submit.
My question is, do they raise a lot of questions regarding the data accuracy?
Time to time, they do ask us some questions and clarification. And as you saw maybe in last week's presentation, they are very satisfied with our turnaround time in complying and replying to their inquiries.
Thank you. We'll wait for that report next week, Monday. Thank you. Short recess, please. Recess. So before I run the video on the screen, Madam Secretary, can you also provide us the data of how many are currently receiving or being processed under PUA 3?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get ready for the video clip that I do want to talk about. And this is on the appearance of the Secretary of Finance on February 23rd, 2021 before the House Ways and Means Committee. And he was asked a question about the PUA benefits. So can you please run the video?
One more before you leave, this just came up from a constituent. Apparently, there are a couple of PUA claimants who are told that their papers are with finance pending payment. Is that, I mean, can you clear the air in terms of finance and
Yes, let me
how
clear
quickly you
this.
can process these payments?
I appreciate the question. Although I wish a lot of people do ask me in our office for PUA information, do I have a check? I can tell you if you have a check or you have a check in progress. What we do is once or even twice a week, we do direct deposits quickly. We get the data on a Tuesday and we try to scrub or look and review if there's anyone that has maybe inconsistent bank account information so that we don't get an error in our direct deposit transfer. And we try to get this out by Thursday. If not, at the latest, first thing Friday morning for direct deposits. Now, paper check. Those that do not get a direct deposit, we print checks usually on a Friday, Thursday, Friday. When we print the checks, we give the checks back to labor. And then labor reviews it and they distribute it. So I know for sure direct deposits comes directly. If it's a paper check, we print the checks, we distribute it, we give it to labor and they distribute it. That's the process that the Department of Labor requested to have. Personally speaking, I wish I could just send it all out and just put it all in the mail. I hope and wish more and more people take advantage of direct deposits because that ensures for sure the money straight into your account. And we minimize the long lines of the banks and we
Thank you, Jonathan. So, Madam Secretary, the reason why I put that up is for you to hear the testimony of the Secretary of Finance during his appearance on February 23rd, 2021. My question to you is, can you explain to this committee why did you request for the printed checks to be given back to your office rather than to just mail it out from finance office to the recipients that have been waiting for their benefits for a very long time? And how many of these checks are still within your possession? Are they still dated? And how much in total of benefits of these checks that are still within your possession?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the beginning, when PUA first started, we were asking for finance to give us back the checks to verify because we realized the portal was making many mistakes, including duplicate payments, as you mentioned earlier. And then in December, we decided since they've already cleared for the most part, most of them have already been adjudicated, reviewed, processed, approved, documents complete, we asked finance to go ahead and mail out the checks to the majority of the PUA claimants. We could still see who was considered an overpayment case. Those were the checks we had to pull because we didn't want the claimant to become another overpayment case. Since then, all checks are being mailed out to PUA claimants who are qualified and eligible for PUA benefits. We do not ask finance for these checks.
Okay, so just
Second question, I'm sorry.
yeah, the question on that is, how many of these checks are still within your possession? And if any are in your possession still, are they still dated already? And how much in total of benefits of these checks that are still within your possession?
Let me verify, Madam Chair, but I believe we have returned all those checks since last year and earlier this year, and most of them have been voided because they were either duplicate payments or out-of-state claimants, therefore ineligible to receive CNMI pool benefits, but I'll verify if there's any in our office, but I do believe we've returned everything back to finance.
Thank you. On your PowerPoint, under the initial claim applications, you mentioned 47 initial applications received as of July 2021. I do understand that there is a provision in the guidances provided by the U.S. Department of Labor of how far back you can backdate the applications. So my question to you, on this 47 new applications received in July 2021, how far back are you backdating these benefits applications?
I believe these initial applications are starting from March to March 2021. If we are going to backdate, it depends on each case, depending on the reasons that they cite. Why didn't they file back in December 2020, for example? And so I can get that more accurate number for you.
Sure, thank you very much. On your PowerPoint presentation, again, it keeps taking me back to the collected amount of overpayments. The word collected to me sticks out like a sore thumb, because to me that's realized collection. I do understand that when there is grant approvals from the grantor agency, which is the federal government, at the state level, the cognizant state entity, for example, here, the CNMI Department of Labor, you transact what we call the internal allotment advices that breaks down the allocations per business unit and for every expenditure category as well within that particular business unit that is established by the department with respect to the grant money. I know it was asked initially, and on the PowerPoint, it says it's being collected and that these are the respective business units that those monies went back into. If you take me to that PowerPoint, please, while I find it on your hard copy. Here we go. Overpayment collected. Business unit LO225G 61251, LO225F 61252, M45111 61253, respectively 13.4 million, 14.6, and 3,275 for a total of 28,027,428.06. This does not show me the evidence of collection at all. What I would like to see for the Department of Labor is for the production of the documents.
Sorry, Madam Chair, we started to produce them. There's over 1,600 documents, and we have to redact the PII from these 1,600. I received assurance from my team that we would get these 1,600 documents to you by next week.
Okay, in the electronic form of records, financially speaking, for example, when you run your business unit within the finance department, there is the fund status report, which is a single sheet oftentimes. The activities report, so that we could just identify the return of these funds into the account, and also the corresponding allotment advices within the department as well, to show and reflect that that $28 million was actually returned back to those business units, because in prior statements that they are returned back to the U.S. Department of Labor. And that's, again, it keeps taking me back to the de-obligation document that normally is executed by the state government when they are returning federal funds back to its grantor. So these are the evidences that we need to show so that we could really validate that these monies actually went back to this particular business units within the local state government and subsequently de-obligated out to the U.S. Department of Labor. So please produce those evidence. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, during your August 13, 2021 oversight, you had mentioned, and even today, the poverty level, the statement is made. Can you tell us what is the current income poverty level of the CNMI?
I do not have that number, Madam Chair.
You can get that to us later.
Okay.
Thank you. On the last hearing on August 13, you had stated also that there are 2 deceased PUA applicants. Is there any recent update to these claims, and how are the survivors of the deceased being notified about the benefits? For example, if the benefits will go into the deceased estate if the deceased died intestate.
Let me get that information to you, Madam Chair.
Okay. And I believe you also get us the information on how many weekly benefits amount denials were issued for PUA 1, 2, and 3 respectively.
Yes, ma'am.
Or do you have that on the PowerPoint?
I thought I did. It is on PowerPoint.
Okay, is it? If not, we can get it.
The number of denials, but I think there's a cumulative number of
Right.
denials, right? But you
I was
want
asking
specific
respectively for PUA 1, 2, and 3.
Got it.
Okay. Okay. And also the appeal cases, we asked for that data that were filed for PUA 1, 2, and 3 respectively as well, and how many to date have been adjudicated. You can get it to us, get the data to us.
Okay.
Now, on August 13, you had stated that deductions only take place if the individual agrees to the deductions at the onset of the WBA payments, correct?
Deductions for
Tax.
tax. In the application, the claimant is asked, do you want to deduct tax now or?
Exactly, right.
That's
Only on their permission,
That's
correct?
right.
Exactly. All right, so are deductions applicable to both PUA and FPUC?
PUA, FPUC, and LWA.
And what are those deductions?
I'm sorry, I don't have that exact percentage.
I did a calculation, and I'll walk you through your allotment advice in my reading of my question to you. It actually came out to about almost 7% of allocations. Now, you mentioned that PUA, FPUC, and LWA are tax deductible, correct?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right. From your Benefits Rights Information Handbook, it says note. There are no deductions made to the FPUC $300 benefit. I would assume that also it talks about the same language with the $600 benefit for FPUC. Only PUA benefits are subject to deduction. My question is, why is there a set aside for IRS under the FPUC Funding Business Unit LO225A, the amount of $6,038,578.35 as stated on your fund status report dated January 31st, 2021, when clearly FPUC benefits has no deductions as stated on the Benefits Rights Information Handbook, page 6 of the handbook. Also, I have seen FPUC deductions on individual portals when there should not have been any deductions, I guess, again, based on your information handbook. What does CNMI Department of Labor plan to do to address these deductions, which I consider illegal deductions? And what suspense account are these deductions being held in by the Department of Finance?
Madam Chair, let me clarify. The deductions you refer to are reductions to their earnings. It's not a deduction for tax. We're looking at the handbook.
The handbook is not clear then?
I believe you.
All right, so the income disregard is 150 from the gross pay, correct?
That's right.
And is that what you guys were trying to say on that handbook? Because I think the handbook itself on the link, it says Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me verify that, Madam Chair.
Okay, you can verify that. You can get back to us later on.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. On the same line of questions on deductions, why is there a substantial amount for IRS for both PUA and FPUC to be exact? 13,680,039.60 allocations at the onset of the establishment of these fund accounts at finance, as stated on your fund status report dated January 31st, 2021 for business units LO225A, 6,038,578.35, that's for FPUC, and LO 225B for $7,641,000.25 461.25 for the PUA account. If we're saying that the individual, until they give you the approval on their application for every weekly claim that they file, that you take down whatever deductions you're taking down from them, then why the allocations of $13.6 million under the IRS accounts? When clearly, I remember running the DUA program during Typhoon Sodalar, we never set aside any money for IRS from the total grant amount, besides the administrative cost that is allowable under the federal grant. We hope that money, as we deduct on a weekly benefit, when the person allows us to do so, and put that money in a suspense account, and then subsequently finance will draw that out and write that check out to IRS. And this is why I'm questioning this. Why close to 7% for every funding allocation for each specific grant account are being set aside under IRS? And respectively, that's under fringe benefits, 61197 expense account. Similarly, the same transactional allocations in different amounts for business units LO 225F in the amount of $6,444,900 for FPUC, and LO 225G in the amount of $6,444,900 for PUA, which is quite interesting that the amounts are similar and totaling $12,889,800, which is about 7% for each respective business unit's total grant funding. Did you want to validate all of these concerns? Next.
Yes, ma'am. I don't want to speak to the numbers because I don't have those figures in front of me.
Okay, and while you're at that, it'll be good to know from the beginning of time of the program in February of 2022 date, how much of IRS, or 10% really, that's what IRS takes away. Even when you take down your withdrawals from your IRA account, your investment account, if you withdraw at a certain time period and you don't return that money back within 60 days, IRS would charge you a 10% tax penalty for early withdrawal. So while you're on this, it'll be good to know for this committee from you, how much deductions have been taken away from individuals already from the beginning of time of PUA 1-2 date, just so that we could validate all of these allocations in the millions of dollars for each respective business unit under IRS allocation. That's important to know. My next question is, how many government employees for each municipality were furloughed? And of this same number, how many were recalled? And are there still any government employees applying for PUA benefits?
For the first two questions, I don't have that answer. I can get it from OPM. And for the third question, how many government employees had applied for PUA?
Are there still any government employees applying for PUA benefits?
Yes, the answer to that is yes. We have some government employees who have been furloughed and have chosen or opted not to go back to work when they've been recalled due to child care issues or health issues, health concerns. So I think we can get that query and get the number to you.
But they're not applying because of reduced hours, right?
No, they're furloughed.
Okay.
Totally.
I
Well, if they're reduced hours, they're still eligible
Right.
to apply for PUA.
Right, so that's the reason why I asked the question too, because it's good to know if any government employees are also applying under the premise of reduction of hours. Although we've seen memos that everybody comes back up to 80. There's a memo that was given by the governor's office, and the reason why I asked this kind of questions because I want to have some validation that the government employees are really back to 80 hours. And if they're still applying for PUA benefits for whatever reasons they have not having, been able to access childcare or they're under COVID-19 restrictions and quarantine, I understand all of that, and which is all part of the guidances. But I think there's a much more deeper querying with respect to the data question that I'm asking. So yeah, I would appreciate some update on that. Thank you. Now, you appeared on KKMP radio on August 13, 2021. I believe that was in the morning. And you made some statements to the reporter, which I would like to have some further clarifications. You had stated that you are getting the numbers to match with the fraudulent claims. Can you clarify what numbers are you trying to match with the fraudulent claims on your records? And is it the number of claim cases or the number of claim amounts?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I don't remember the exact statement at that end.
Okay, you can probably go back to that recording of that and.
And then answer your question, which is how many fraudulent claims, how much fraudulent?
Yeah, you had stated that you are getting the numbers to match with the fraudulent claims. The reporter had asked you a question, and I just want you to clarify, what are you trying to match with the fraudulent claims on your records? Whether is it the number of claim cases or the number of claim amounts?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. On the same appearance on KKMP, you had also stated that there are 12,000 claimants on file for PUA 2, and that 7,000 were processed. Is this unique claimants? Because if it is claimants, then we can mathematically assume that there are 132,000 claims for PUA 2 benefits period, correct? Now, if it's claims, then we can mathematically assume that there are 1,091 claimants, correct? So which is correct, claimants or claims? Sorry, but I still have to ask that question again because it's the way it's reported out.
Some of those claims are duplicate claims, Madam Chair.
Can you just get your data correct on the next response, whether it's claimants, duplicate or not? Flush it out, clean it out, because mathematically speaking, I can still calculate out. I can make assumptions on your data of what is the number of claims for that particular period of the PUA program, whether it's 1, 2, or 3. I could do my assumptions correctly based on what you are reporting out. So just flush it out, clean it out, and get back to us.
Yes, ma'am.
Furthermore, the data confusion poses the same question whether it's claimants or claims of 2,563 by the U.S. Department of Labor as of July 24, 2021, which was reported to our Washington delegate's office. Again, the question I have for you, is it claims or claimants? And you can see that report from our Washington delegate's newsletter. You get back to us on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, earlier it was asked, what data did you source to come up with, I guess, the grant request during the coronavirus when it was ongoing? So were you basing it on your quarterly reports from the employers and not from any other statistical employment data that you could have gotten?
No, we try basing it on not just our QC documents, because that's a very small percentage of businesses that are reporting to us. We did get some data from our WEA division, Employment Services Division, from Department of Commerce, from Chamber of Commerce, from HANMI, and talking to different businesses about the climate at that time. So it was a guesstimate as close as we could get it. And I believe it is a good estimate, because when you ask for 15,000 funding for 15,000 PUA claimants, it is better than asking only for 6,000, and then we don't have enough because we had over 39,000 applications. And so it was a difficult situation back then. The Department of Labor did not have completely accurate data at that time, and even up to now, we are still asking for data from our businesses. Through a survey we've just implemented out of the WEA program, through quarterly compliance documents, and we do try to work closely with the Department of Commerce on things like their surveys and their information. So it was information that we had guessed for the most part, and also received from other departments, other business entities and organizations. Nobody knew for sure how many workers we had out there who were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. We had to go out and ask people, so how is it? Are you working? Are you coming up to apply for PUA? And even now, although the numbers are low, we're trying to help everyone who comes to the table with a PUA application. So even those numbers are rough, raw data.
Okay, so I do have concerns oftentimes when departments are making their own survey instruments. Just so you know, by law, the Department of Commerce, under the statistical division, they are responsible for the state government to collect and even, construct the survey instrument because they're well trained in terms of the methodology of how you collect data, how you form the question, things like that. So I would really encourage the Department of Labor to utilize the services of the CNMI Department of Commerce statistical division to design and construct your questions for your survey just so that there's validity in your survey rather than just some kind of generic survey being conducted, being formulated within the department and then people can start questioning the validity of the data. So I really suggest just work with the Department of Commerce and let them give them all your questions and let them vet it out and flush it out and construct it so that the right methodology is followed so that your data can become more solid and much more validated rather than to create it your own.
To your point, Madam Chair, we're not just guessing out of our hats. We're also dealing with people who are working in the community. Our State Workforce Development Board, for example, is chaired by a person who has had over 40 years of HR experience in the hospitality industry. The members of the board have come together and compiled a draft survey, and we work together, not just with Commerce, but also, of course, with the team. It's not something that we take lightly. I understand your concern, and I appreciate your suggestion, but to imply that we made a survey out of a drop of a hat, that's not what we do at the Department of Labor.
No, I was not implying that. What I was saying is the CNMI Department of Commerce, by law, is a responsible state entity. And they have the expertise and the methodology that they follow. I mean, they even provide the prevailing wage determination survey that is accepted by the U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Office of Foreign Labor Certification. So no, I'm not questioning the integrity of anybody. I do understand, I do know that the people actually that sits on your workforce board, it's not that. What I'm saying is, just so that your instruments and the right methodologies are followed and the experts within the CNMI government really is the CNMI Department of Commerce, because even they themselves handle the census data collections. They deal with the experts in terms of methodology and statistical analysis. So that's the suggestion and recommendation I'm making to you, so that utilize their services for free. Anyways, you could sit with them, and you're not the only one. I've talked to other departments within the government because they're all talking about, we want to do this service, utilize the services of Department of Commerce. By law, they are supposed to be collecting data and constructing instruments, designing, following the right methodology. So it's really to your advantage.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Now, on your CNMI weekly and cumulative report for June 12, 2021, it states a total of 4,312 initial claim applications were eligible for week ending June 20, 2020 to July 11, 2020. And the cumulative weekly claims total for the same time period is 53,777. My question is why there was not a single payment disbursed for these claims for this time period, despite the fact that a total of $43 million for FPUC and $25 million for PUA was awarded by the U.S. Department of Labor effective April 1st, 2020, and then on July 1st, 2020, the U.S. Department of Labor ETA issued grant modification number 3, increasing the funds for FPUC by $8 million and $42 million for PUA, which brings the total of funds available as of July 1st, 2020 for FPUC to $51 million and $67 million for PUA. Furthermore, on this same report, despite the 15,828 cumulative weekly claims for the week ending July 18, 2020, only 33 claims were paid, to be exact, $6,651 for PUA and $17,400 for FPUC. And for week ending July 25th, 2020, with a cumulative weekly claims of 21,200, only one claim was paid for $345 PUA and $0 for FPUC.
To clarify, the CNMI Department, the CNMI as a state did not receive funds from the U.S. DOE until June 10, 2020. As soon as we received those funds, we were instructed to open PUA 1 week after that so that we could publicize that the PUA program was going to begin and to allow our people to start gathering their documents. As to the numbers you stated, they're not the same as our numbers, so I need to clarify on that.
Yeah, you can just go back to the report that you have provided my office during my Open Government Act. Now, when you make a statement of June 10, 2020, receiving the money from the U.S. Department of Labor, I would think that you're talking about the drawdown receipt time at finance.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, your question?
You said we did not receive the money from USDOL to June 10. Is that June 10, 2020?
That's correct. That was when we received the notice of award from the U.S. Department of Labor.
You do have in a document here, the notice of award that is dated April 1st, 2020, and also on July 1st, 2020, grant modification number 3. I am fully aware of these federal documents when they come down, and that's the document that you utilize to effectuate your allotment advices internally, and that jumpstarts the money, regardless whether the finance department has drawn down the money or not. The fact of the matter is, this money is sitting on hold on the federal PMS system. It's called Payment Management System electronically. And when the CNMI Department of Finance executes its drawdown, obviously, is when the time the money comes into the bank account of the CNMI government, is when those monies can be, processed via checks or electronic funds transfer. But those monies have become effective since April 1st, 2020. And that's the reason why I question why there's no disbursement within all this time period, despite the fact that all of those weekly claims have already been validated by the Office of Department of Labor. Okay, so we're going to go back to the conversation of taxes because of all of those allocations under IRS, and you will need to come back and validate those. So the Secretary of Finance came out on the local paper dated February 19, 2021, stating that $4.6 million increase in personal income tax collection is directly attributed to the taxes received from the PUA and FUC benefits. Now, my question is, you have stated on your August 13, 2021 PowerPoint that there are 1868 overpayment cases in the CNMI. My question is, these overpayments, are they being sought after by your office to be repaid? Taxes have been paid on these overpayments, correct?
Yes.
Personal income taxes have been paid. And what has your office done to address this issue with the Secretary of Finance and the federal grantor with respect to the overpayments and income taxes imposed on these benefits that now the claimants are being asked to pay back? Is the CNMI government going to keep taxes it withheld on benefits that were paid out erroneously? And if so, would it not be prudent to waive these overpayments again, which is mostly not a fault of the claimants? It's a tax question.
Right.
Okay, you can get back to me on that.
Yes, ma'am.
You appeared on February 3rd, 2021 before the Senate Judiciary Government Law and Federal Relations Committee. You stated that there are 700 plus ROTA applicants. However, on your August 13, 2021 PowerPoint is far less. Similarly, for Tinian, you stated on the same day that 800 plus applicants, while on your August 13, 2021 PowerPoint, it's stating 331 PUA applicants. Can you validate the numbers for ROTA and Tinian and how many unique applicants there is for each island and what is their cumulative weekly claims to date?
I can validate that at a later time, Madam Chair. I wanted to say that, yes, we may have started out in February with 700 plus ROTA PUA applicants and then moved down to 331 in August because most of them may have gone back to work or received full-time hours. But let me get the exact numbers for you.
Okay. I want to circle back on the $14.9 million collected overpayment that you had stated back in the Senate on February 3rd, 2021, and on the local paper on February 4th, 2021, and on your PowerPoint presentation on August 13, 2021 as well. On August 13, 2021 oversight hearing, I asked, do you know which account these overpayment funds are being kept, and that you will get back to this committee. I know you had given us a bunch of business units account, but I did ask specific questions. I'm trying to make sure that those numbers do balance out with respect to the activities back into the business units and the deobligation to the grantor. And we will wait for that information from you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And on the Open Government Act, I get it next week also, correct?
Yes, Madam Chair.
One that was dated August 3rd, 2021.
That's 2 of 3, right?
Thank you.
Okay.
I did receive an email from the GAR's office on June 30, 2021. Oh no, I'm sorry, recently, August 17, 2021. It is actually trying to respond to my June 30, 2021 LWA data. I do know that you have provided some LWA data up here, but that you will get back to us again next week on much more validation on how many applicants are within that time period of the first PUA period up to August 31st, so that we could understand what really is the numbers of qualified LWA applicants, even though the grant has closed out, but possibly that there's still some people out there that have not yet received their LWA benefits, considering that from the last time I looked at the fund status report from the GAR, there's about $2.2 million sitting in the bank account. And I would think that, I'm not even sure if they already de-obligated the money back to FEMA. Are you aware of that?
Yes, ma'am.
They have de-obligated the money back to
No,
FEMA?
I'm not aware if it's been de-obligated. I'm aware of the figures you mentioned. I need to verify with the GAR.
All right, so you can get back to us on that.
Yes,
Thank you. Okay, this concludes my questions. I do appreciate the time spent on the first oversight and also for today. I know that we are still waiting for more data, information, and validation by next week so that we could bring it all together for our committee report. And, we need to adopt our report and subsequently submit it to the SNILD delegation for acceptance. We have made a lot of recommendations to your office, and I know that you're still processing a lot of the claims. I'm also getting some results from those cases that we have delivered to your office that they are receiving their benefits now. I know that some people are messaging, why are they already processing PUA 3 and I'm still in PUA 2 and they have not given me my money. So I do understand the process of weekly claims, and hopefully that we don't get to see just lump sum payments, but more so on a weekly basis, just so that families can start seeing their benefits on a weekly basis. Even for that matter, even on a daily basis, if claims are being, flushed out, adjudicated, reviewed properly by the adjudicator, that they could easily get those two adjudicators sitting at the Department of Finance to approve the payments so that those payments can roll out into the community before we even hit the closeout period of September 4th. It's just around the corner. So I'm hoping to see a much more greater increase with respect to the expenditure ratio. I know that 30%, I saw an article that says we are beyond the 30%. Well, that's fantastic to know. But I know that there's still a lot of cases that are still going through the adjudication process, and that would drive up the expenditure ratio for PUA and FUC monies, and also hopefully for the LWA monies that are sitting currently that possibly still have applicants that have not been paid out their $900. I want to thank you and your team for working with us through this 2 days of hearing. Before I close out my statement, I'll recognize our Representative Tina Sablan.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I actually just want to ask a couple more questions following up on your.
Go ahead.
Secretary Benedetti, for the government employees that the chair asked about earlier, those who were furloughed last year and continue to apply for PUA through the early months of this year and have since been called back to work. So you said you could provide that data to the chair next week, right?
I will try my best to provide that data to the chair by next week.
Okay, but just so we're clear, so they're clear, they can still expect to receive those payments. Labor is still processing their claims since last year when they were first furloughed.
Provided they have given the right documents and statement of earnings and all of that, yes. I don't want to just blanket say, yes, everybody's eligible.
Sure, understood. And then going back to what Camacho was asking, Labor is able to continue processing these pending claims all the way through October 4th. And that's when you expect to have adjudicated all of these claims.
No, we will not be finished adjudicating on October 4th.
Okay. So what happens on October 4th then?
That is the deadline for receiving pool applications,
For receiving new applications?
new and continuing applications.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And then similarly for LWA, even although the program has closed, are you able to continue making payments for those who are, I know you said that there's like less than 60, right, that have been identified as eligible, who have not yet been paid, but now that the program is closed, you are still able to make those payments once you've determined.
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. And then regarding the active work search requirement that the chair asked about and the program rules that she earlier read into the record that allow the state to waive that requirement through an executive order, did you say that the CNMI no longer has that option to waive the requirement? Now it is a mandate?
We asked if we could waive it in the very beginning when we heard from the pipeline that Hawaii had already reinstated their work search requirement, and we responded, they said, nope, we have to follow Hawaii state law. Luckily, they gave us starting date of August instead of retroactively to June.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
And what is the consequence then for claimants who fail to meet the work search requirement?
It's in the rules and regs that we had sent you in the last PowerPoint, exactly what is in the fact sheet. A poor claimant may not be deemed eligible for poor benefits if they do not comply with the work search requirements.
Okay, at this time, has Labor denied any payments for people who fail to meet the work search requirements?
Not that I know of. Everyone is complying as far as I know.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, would you explain the reason why people who hold C-37 status are not eligible for poor?
Let me use that C-37 question. as
And this is a
opportunity.
long-term,
Yes,
CNMI
I know
long-term.
what it is, but I'm going to ask Jackie to address that because she loves immigration law.
I'm sure you must be seeing a lot of these cases.
Hello. So the inquiry as to C-37 is that they're not really linked to any of the qualified aliens definitions or provisions. So we had asked the Department of Labor, is there any way that we can link them to any qualified alien definition? And unfortunately, that permit for C-37 does not link to any qualified alien definition.
And is that because they don't need that 1 year continuous long-term status for a qualified
Not
alien?
necessarily. So with the qualified alien, there are, let me just pull up my slide. There's about 9 different types of qualified aliens. And with respect to EADs with the C-37 or the long-term resident, they're not linked to any of the qualified alien definitions, meaning C-37 long-term residents are not permanent residents, are not aliens granted asylum, are not considered refugees, are not considered alien parolees for at least 1 year. They're not considered pending deportation or removal, withhold or being withheld. And they are not granted conditional entry under Section 203A7 of the Immigration Nationality Act. They are not Cuban or Haitian entrants. They are not CWs, and they are not aliens who were battered or subject to extreme cruelty.
Wow, okay.
So those
So
definitions,
unfortunate. So it's because of this new status, because they're not specifically included in that list.
correct.
They can't. Okay. But up until that status is awarded, when they're still CW pending their change of status, they should still be eligible for PUA.
For with round 2 and 3, assuming they meet all other eligibility requirements.
Okay, thank you. I yield, Madam Chair.
I recognize Representative John Bosaban.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just last question, Madam Secretary. I know that you have mentioned several times that October 4 will be the last day for you guys to receive application, and you guys will continue working perhaps till 2022. I just wanted to know, when do you anticipate to release most of the employees that you hire to complete this FUA program?
It is my goal that we keep all the employees that have been hired as pool coordinators until we adjudicate and review and process every single pool applicant. When do I anticipate it? It's hard to say, Chairman.
Fair enough. Thank you, Ayo.
Thank you. Any others? I recognize Representative Vicente Camacho.
Thank you, Chair. This is a clarifying question. Earlier, you had stated that some of the issues that caused the overpayment was due to claimants inputting wrong data into the portal. Now, one of your processes, if I understand correctly, is for claimants to submit required documents, right? Okay, so with that said, now, who actually reviews those documents? The adjudicators, right?
The pool coordinators, yes.
Okay, the coordinators would do a cross-check between the portal and the documents that have been received, the required documents, correct?
Yes.
So from the little clip that I just heard from Secretary of Finance, you had mentioned that those checks go back to you for, I guess, for cross-referencing and when y'all believe that there's overpayment. Now, so that means really the documents in the portal aren't necessarily cross-checked to have that overpayment, to have caused that overpayment. How then do you figure out that there is an overpayment when the checks have been returned to the Department of Labor? Is that when you guys re-adjudicate it again to find those errors?
In the first round of PUA, documents were not required by the pool claimants. They started requiring documents in PUA round 2. In the first 4 months of PUA program kicking off, we had several processes of paying the benefits, receiving the checks, dispersing the checks. So things have changed. So now that documents are required, yes, pool coordinators have to verify paycheck stubs, timesheets, bank statements, every single document that's provided by the claimant.
Okay, fair enough. So the portal is up and running and there are no more errors in that, right? Or are we still doing the same processes?
Our processes are changing, evolving, we're trying to improve, and I never said the portal is not making any mistakes.
Well, yeah, I'm just kind of threw that out there to you because, you know, adjudicators should actually get it right the first time between looking at the portal, what has been inputted by the claimant. If they're actually cross-checking it, then there shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, I want to address that first comment that you said that the adjudicator should get right. Let me address the statement that pool claimants make a statement on the portal or a hard copy, and they certify that their statement is correct and true to their knowledge. And anything else that's not true, they're going to be perjuring themselves. So we take these seriously, and claimants do too. If it's done by an error, we try and help the claimant resolve the issue. If it's done fraudulently and purposefully, then BPC unit will step in and try and get these overpayments back. Representative Camacho, what is your question?
Didn't get the question. All right, we'll leave it at that then. It's already recorded. I believe I knew what I was talking about. So anyway, one of the complaints that I'm always hearing from claimants is, I have submitted all the required documents. So when I go back and check, they don't have it. They don't have it. So, and that was not a question either, so you shouldn't worry about it. Thank you, Chair. I yield.
Thank you, Representative Camacho. So, just before I close out the meeting, just to go back on the immigration cases, considering that I did read the administrative order, and I appreciate the hearing officer for identifying the errors that were made with respect to that particular case's denial and subsequently overturning the denial, and the person got the benefits. If I could have a word of encouragement for the department to perhaps maybe share the case with the adjudicators so that they understand, what happened in this particular case. It will help them adjudicate properly so that they don't mistakenly deny a person erroneously, and then having that person go through the hurdle of filing an appeal because we're just closing out by September 4th. I understand not everybody's versed in immigration matters or the classifications. I am aware of those classifications. C-37 is for long-term status, C-11, but these processes are what a person applies for change of status. It does not happen because the person already applied for a change of status. That only happens when the U.S. Department, USCIS grants the change of status and subsequently approves the new status for that particular individual applicant. And that's the reason why I urge the department to use this case study internally for even for the short time period, train the staff so that they understand this correctly. This is a perfect example of a woman that was changing her status, but for 1 full year, she never really gapped with respect to her prior status. And then that's the reason why it was overturned and she got the benefits for PUA and FPSC. So if it's anything to learn from internally, I understand there's seasoned adjudicators and there's not so seasoned adjudicators, but we have the opportunity to learn. And immigration matters is not easy. And understanding that the availability of all the EAD on the qualified status under the USCIS categories is not for the, for just somebody to learn overnight. But I feel that we still have a lot of cases that under, for example, CW1 status, but they are applying for a long-term residency status, which is under the application of, if I'm not mistaken, I-765 under USCIS is what they use as a category for LTR for the CNMI, right? So what I'm saying is that it does not happen yet on the change of status until that person gets an approved EAD, is when that status becomes effective, not at the time of the application. So I'm just hoping that this particular case be taken in by the department and provide some kind of an internal training for the staff. Go ahead, recognize the hearing officer.
My administrative orders are served to all of the relevant parties, including the staff, and the staff go over it internally as well. With respect to the matters of the I-765, that's actually the EAD code application or type of application for an EAD. And what the staff do on their end to verify any pending applications is they run a SAVE USCIS inquiry, which is the systematic alien verification for entitlements. And when they run that inquiry on top of reviewing any of their certifying documents or supporting documents, it'll state whether or not they have pending applications for them to review. And that'll trigger any kind of additional review on the adjudicator side.
Understood. Right. The SAVE is the system to check the validation of the person that is a foreigner within the country. But the fact that your administrative order identified the errors, resulting to the denial of the case is an indication that even though copies are provided internally, that there's still that necessity to provide the internal training so that, people can be walked through the process of understanding this is what this person was before, and this is what this person is pursuing as of now, but not yet approved. So that's what I'm suggesting on this, that futuristically speaking, that hopefully when you guys get us the data next week on the CW ones that are going through the process of adjudication or appeals, that I hope not to see a huge number, considering that I've seen the numbers on the prevailing wage report with respect to how many CW ones are out there in the market during the pandemic time 2020 when the survey was conducted. So I'm praying that those numbers are not, a high number for adjudication or appeals, because the time period of closeout is approaching fast on September 4th.
That's correct, Madam Chair, but we will not deny anyone a chance to appeal a decision, even if the pandemic assistance program closes. We will hear the cases. There are some timeframes and deadlines, but our position is to help everyone who asks for help.
I appreciate that, but just make sure that, let's just say that the administrative order turns in favor of the applicant, for example, that the grantor is still going to allow the payout of those benefits even beyond September 4th. So that's just something that, if I were you, just get on top of it, have that documented, rather than just verbally talking over the conference calls with USDA. Well, I understand, I've been through all of that. It's nice to have some documentation and validation and confirmation that we have adjudication, we have cases going through adjudication right now, and it's already past September 4th, or even way before September 4th. For example, if you do anticipate that some of these cases will turn in favor of those CW1 cases that were denied or for whatever reason that they do not meet the qualified alien status question, but they have filed an appeal with your office, that these individuals subsequently will be given the benefits if their cases turns out to be in their favor. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, in closing, again, I do want to thank you and your team for coming and for going through this whole number of questions with SNILD JGO. We appreciate the time spent. We hope that we provided some kind of clarity with what how the program is being administered, and also to provide them some sense of comfort for those that are still waiting for their benefits, that they are to expect to see more payouts as the adjudication process accelerates towards the closing out of the program come September 4th, even though the application date is still open up to October 4th. It's not too far out there, but we do expect and hope to see a much more greater expenditure on the funds that are still remaining on the books, and so that we could have that money circulate in the local economy, besides all the other monies that are going around and all the other issues being faced. But there's still so many millions of dollars on the books, and this pandemic is not going to end soon, even though we're going through the bubble travel extended out to December, I believe. I just read that the trip program under MBA. It's not too far, but what we do know is that we do have a lot of millions and millions of dollars sitting on our hands right now. And we need to all try our best to push out those monies so that our people can benefit from that. Recognize Secretary Benavente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And on that note, we have just dispersed $3.3 million to 515 poor claimants in
How much?
the last couple of days. $3.3 million.
For PUA FPUC.
Yes, to
Fantastic.
515.
Can you do more?
Yes, ma'am. Working on it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Short
Madam Chair.
recess before you guys leave. review the nominees for SHEFA on the following Friday from today. So that's a heads up for you guys. I have no other further announcements. May I hear a motion to adjourn this meeting? It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Nays, motion carried. This meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you, members. Have a good weekend.
So the data that you're getting next week,
Next week, Friday.